welcome back everyone. This is a change from my typical scenery, either being outside or in the garage, but half the garage is torn apart. I'm building a dining room table, and then the dining room's torn apart because I'm building a dining room table. So I've got less space obviously to do this, but today I wanted to talk about something really that we're all about to enter into. So we're entering into what we call the fall growing period. And if you didn't watch my last video, please go back and watch it. But that was, I'm sure probably some people watched it and were thinking, why in the world are we talking about this? That's because I don't want to tell people what to go out and buy or what to go out and do without everybody having an understanding of how much do I need. So that's really kind of the precursor. I've fallen into that trap before. You know, you go out and you watch something, or you hear directions on something, and you go out and you buy a whole bunch, and then you don't really understand kind of how much you needed, whether you have too much or too little. It kind of all runs the same gamut there. So again, forgive me, I didn't explicitly call it out, but I wanted to make sure that we didn't get anybody into a situation where we under or over applied something. So we're heading into the fall growing season for fescues, and this is how cool season grasses work. You get a spring growing period, a fall growing period, and then dormancy in the other two seasons. And during the spring and the fall, it's safe to apply fertilizer. So really, being that we're trying to push things to grow a little bit harder, trying to green some things up, thicken some things up, we really want to make sure that we apply fertilizer. And there are plenty of experts out there that say don't blindly apply fertilizer, but I can almost guarantee you that, one, if you're watching this video, especially in our neighborhood, so if you know me as a neighbor, everybody in this neighborhood needs to apply fertilizer in the fall without a doubt. In the South, the way we build homes, well, I shouldn't say we because I don't physically build homes, but they literally strip all the topsoil and they leave hard-packed clay. And that hard-packed clay basically has no nutrients. So even if you've got a sod layer, you only have, maybe 1.5 inches or 2 inches of topsoil there. And very few of the contractors, the landscape contractors, will put down any starter fertilizer. So effectively you have sod on a bed of, might as well be concrete. There's no nutrients there. It's also very hard packed, and that's why we get away in the South without pouring what we call footers that are kind of deep concrete posts in the ground to keep the house from shifting. So they hard pack everything, the whole site. They then pour your slab over top of it. So what we need to do is contend with that compaction and the lack of nutrients. So first things first, we can apply nutrients via fertilizer. And the type of fertilizer really depends on whether you're going to do a turf renovation. So a turf renovation would include an overseeding. So I'll have a whole separate video on what to do if you are going to go through the overseeding side of things with the turf renovation. But no matter what, we're going to need to apply fertilizer. So if we are not going through a turf renovation, we're going to apply a general purpose fertilizer. And typically you're going to see, if you look at the numbers, there's an N, a P, and a K. So we have nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those are just the letters. And N stands for, if you think about it this way, it's up. For N, it helps the grass grow up. The P helps the roots grow down, and the K is kind of like an all around. So we have up, down, all around. If you're not doing a turf renovation, you're typically going to apply something with an N and a K, and it'll be a 0 in the middle, so like a 24-0-17 or a 24-0-7, something like that. And I just arbitrarily choose those numbers just as examples. And then if you're doing a turf renovation, we obviously want that down. We want the root germination, so we would want something with phosphorus. So you might have something that's like a 16-24-16. And again, those are arbitrary numbers, but I'll kind of link some suggestions down below. And again, that's why I did that video first on measuring and making sure we understand what we need to buy. But the other thing is, I mentioned the hard packed clay. So if we take care of the nutrients via the fertilizer, we also need to take care of some of that soil compaction. Nothing really likes to grow in really hard concrete-like soil. No matter what, if you plant flowers, you kind of want nice, just kind of calm soil around it. You typically might pack it down a little bit with your hands, and grass is no different. So literally we can improve the oxygenation and also the moisture kind of retention and how far it goes down into the soil by doing what's called aeration. So literally we use a plugger, and it pulls out these cores out. And if you're a golfer, you probably hate playing golf when this happens, because literally it's just, there's little holes everywhere. They fill theirs with sand, we don't fill ours with anything. But you plug it, it's okay to leave the plugs everywhere because that's got some nutrients left in it, especially up top from kind of where I would call that sod layer. And then literally you get the oxygen, and the grass, or the existing grass where you pull the plugs out of, will kind of just fill in those holes over time. And then the plugs that you pull out, they break up and kind of decompose and act as compost. But that is really an important step for us, especially here in the transition zone, where again, well, I'd probably say most of the South, where we don't pour footers and everything's on that hard packed clay. So we want to fertilize, we want to aerate, and the aeration also does come in with the turf renovation, but in this case we're just going to figure that we're good with kind of how thick the grass canopy is now. So we're going to fertilize, we're going to aerate, and then we want to continue mowing frequently. So the grass is going to grow really fast right now, and it's more important than ever to continue to mow frequently. We don't ever want to mow more than 1/3 of the blade off. So my suggestion is in the summer not to mow any less than 3 inches ever. And it's the same way in the falls, just because fescue likes to be cut very high. In fact, there are some places in the country that they want to cut the fescue at 5 inches tall. So obviously that changes the look, and some people don't like that, but that's what's healthy for it. So it's just like, I don't like eating spinach, but force myself to eat spinach because it's healthy. So we really want to make sure we do what's healthy for the grass. Depending on how high you're cutting it, just multiply it by 1/3 and figure out what's safe to cut off. And if it's the middle of the week, you might find yourself, especially if you cut your grass on your own, you might find yourself needing to mow the lawn. So just kind of pay attention to that. And again, we really want to make sure that we take care of that frequently. There are a lot of thoughts out there, and there's literally, it's called mow it out. You can theoretically mow weeds out of the yard by mowing very frequently. You can mow every single day, and eventually you'll choke the weeds out and the turf will actually thicken up. So I'm going to have a video specifying on what to do if you're going to go through a fall turf renovation. I'm doing some for some of the neighbors in this particular neighborhood, but I really want to make sure that people understand what the right steps are. So I'll probably have another video following, hopefully in just another day or so, kind of walking everybody through what those particular steps are. And then also in the description below, I'll link some suggestions for fertilizer, and I'll also link some suggestions for starter fertilizer. You can get away with using starter fertilizer either way, so I'll link some suggestions for both of them. And then also I'll link in the next video some suggestions for other pieces, like you'll need a spreader and some things like that. So I want to make sure everybody's prepared, so please let me know if you have any questions, and until next time. Thanks.